I stood there in the small church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the chilly air seeped into every fiber of my being. I am Jacob Turner, 39 years old, a foreman at a steel mill on the outskirts of the city. My daily work usually involves facing scorching furnaces and the deafening clash of metal, but today, everything was eerily silent. My father, William Turner, had passed away suddenly from a stroke. He was 68 years old, but still robust, still calling me every evening to ask about my shift. Now he lay there in the polished oak casket, his face peaceful as if in a deep sleep. I wasn't prepared for any of this. The void in my heart was so vast that it felt like a black hole swallowing everything, from childhood memories to the last pieces of advice he had given me. I stood silently beside the casket, hands clenched tightly to keep them from shaking. Grief surged, but I had to stay composed. My mother, Eleanor Turner, needed me as her support. She sat in the front row, her frail frame trembling under the black dress, eyes red and fixed on the casket. Every time she reached up to wipe her tears, that gesture twisted my heart. I had to steel myself, swallow the pain, and handle everything personally. From arranging the funeral flowers and choosing the hymns to greeting the guests, all of it fell on me. Dad would be proud of me, I told myself silently, trying to keep my voice from breaking as I greeted everyone. The church was packed. Relatives who had traveled from afar, familiar neighbors from the old neighborhood, and Dad's co-workers, men who had worked alongside him for 3 decades at the machine shop. They approached one by one, shaking my hand and murmuring condolences. William was a good man. He always helped everyone, an old neighbor said, voice choked. The atmosphere was heavy, like a gloomy fog. The organ played mournfully, mingling with muffled sobs from somewhere in the room. The strong scent of white lilies made me dizzy, but I stood firm, forcing a smile for each person. Amid the crowd, I looked around, waiting. My wife's family. Olivia's parents, Harold and Joyce Simmons. Where were they? We had notified them 2 days earlier, and Pittsburgh was only a few hours' drive from Erie. I imagined they would arrive, hug me, and share the grief. But time passed. The clock on the church wall ticked relentlessly, and still no sign of them. My heart began beating faster. An uncomfortable feeling crept in. Was something wrong? Or was I just being paranoid in my grief? I glanced at Olivia, my wife. She sat beside my mother, head bowed but not from crying. Her fingers flew across her phone screen, thumb scrolling up and down as if reading something urgent. Her face seemed detached from the funeral atmosphere, as if she were in another world. I leaned over and whispered, "What are you doing? Any word from your parents?" Olivia startled and looked up, eyes glistening with feigned sadness. "Nothing, honey. My parents are on a business trip handling company matters. They couldn't make it in time. It's too rushed right now." Her voice was soft, but I detected the haste in it. She placed a hand on my shoulder, squeezing lightly. "I'm so sad, honey. Dad leaving so suddenly. You have to stay strong, okay?" Those comforting words temporarily pushed aside the unease that had just sparked. Maybe she was right. Her parents' real estate company in Erie kept them busy. In this situation, I shouldn't doubt or blame anyone further. I told myself, they have a valid reason. Don't overthink it. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, small but persistent. Throughout the service, I bustled like a machine, greeting guests, arranging seating, even running outside to meet a late-arriving relative. Sweat soaked the back of my shirt, but I didn't stop. And Olivia? She mostly stayed silent in one spot, occasionally glancing at her phone as if waiting for something. Each time the phone vibrated softly, she would bow her head, fingers dancing on the screen. I tried not to notice, but my heart pounded. Who was she texting? Why now? This was my father's funeral, yet she didn't seem fully present. The prayer service began. The priest read the scriptures, his deep voice echoing. I knelt, mind chaotic. Memories of Dad flooded in. Afternoons he taught me to fix my bike. Times he laughed heartily at my terrible jokes. Now he lay there cold. Tears rolled down my face, but I wiped them quickly and looked at Mom. She was sobbing, hand clutching her chest. I stood, hugged her, and whispered, "I'm here, Mom. We'll get through this." She nodded weakly, but that trembling gesture hurt me more than ever. Finally, the service ended. I watched the last people leave, leaving the church empty. The space grew colder than ever. Wind whistled through the windows like ghostly whispers. The sense of loss weighed on my chest like a massive stone. I stood silently before Dad's grave, cold wind whipping through, making the emptiness even starker. Loneliness seeped into every breath, heavy and undeniable, yet in that moment I still reassured myself that I wasn't completely alone. I believed that beside me was my wife, the family I had always trusted fully. That even though Dad was gone, there would be those who remained, ready to walk through this loss with me. A week after the funeral, life seemed to start returning to its routine. But for me, everything remained hazy, as if shrouded in fog. I went back to work at the steel mill, where the deafening machinery helped me temporarily forget the pain. But every evening when I returned home, that emptiness flooded back. Pittsburgh in late autumn, with golden leaves covering the streets, and I often drove around aimlessly before heading home, trying to delay the moment of facing the silent house. Olivia was still by my side, cooking simple meals and holding me each night, but something felt different. She smiled more, asked about my day more, but her eyes often avoided mine when I mentioned her parents. Then one morning, as I was brewing coffee in the kitchen, the phone rang. An unfamiliar number, but with the familiar downtown area code. I answered, and a warm, professional voice on the other end said, "Is this Mr. Jacob Turner? This is attorney Martin Hale representing Mr. William Turner. I'm calling to inform you about the reading of the will. We've scheduled it at our office in downtown Pittsburgh this Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. My heart skipped a beat. Dad had left a will? He had never mentioned it. He always said everything would be fine, not to worry. I asked for more details, and Mr. Hale explained briefly. Only those named were invited, but I could bring a family member if I wished. The call ended, leaving me standing there with a cup of cold coffee in hand. I immediately told Olivia when she walked into the kitchen, hair still tousled from sleep. "Honey, Dad's lawyer called. They're reading the will this week." She paused, eyes widening, then smiled faintly. "Oh, really? I'll go with you, okay? I want to be there for you during this sensitive time." I was a little surprised. After all, the will had nothing to do with her, but then I nodded. Why overthink it? Olivia was my wife, my closest person. We had been together for 8 years, sharing every joy and sorrow. There was no reason to keep distance. "Come with me. Thank you." I hugged her, a warmth creeping in, dispelling some of the loneliness. The day of the reading arrived, with drizzling rain and a gray Pittsburgh matching my mood. I drove Olivia to the lawyer's office downtown, a modern glass building amid the hurried crowd. My mother was already waiting in the lobby, looking weary but trying to stay composed. She hugged me tightly, whispering, "We'll be okay, son." Olivia greeted her politely, but I noticed her smile was slightly forced. We entered the conference room, formal with a long wooden table and stacked files. Attorney Hale greeted us and checked the attendee list. He glanced at Olivia. "Mrs. Turner is not named in the will, but if Mr. Jacob consents to his wife attending as a companion, we have no objection." I nodded immediately. "Yes, I consent to my wife attending." Mr. Hale smiled and began. William Turner's will was read clearly and in detail, his voice steady like reading a contract. First, my mother, Eleanor, was left the family home along with enough money for a comfortable retirement without worries, about $500,000 plus the pension fund. Mom wiped her tears and nodded in gratitude. Then my part. My heart pounded as Mr. Hale read, "Jacob inherits the remainder of the estate. Far larger than imagined. Over $2 million in cash, shares in Dad's old company worth millions, and several undisclosed investments accumulated over the years. 2 downtown Pittsburgh apartments, a plot of land on the outskirts, and even a small commercial complex in Erie." The figures and list of assets left me stunned, not from joy or excitement, but from an indescribable feeling rising within. I had never known Dad had quietly built so much, working silently, saving and planning for my future without ever boasting or mentioning it. Yet in that moment, instead of thinking about the money's value, I only felt profound sorrow, realizing I had just lost the man who had loved and protected me in the most silent way throughout my life. I looked at Mom. She smiled weakly, and I thought, this is how Dad takes care of us even when he's gone. Attorney Hale continued explaining the terms and next steps, transfers, taxes, paperwork. His voice droned on, but I tried to focus, jotting a few notes. Inadvertently, I glanced at Olivia. She was looking down, fingers rapidly texting on her phone. Her face showed unusual focus, lips pressed tight, eyes flashing with strange excitement. In this solemn conference room, my heart skipped a beat. "Honey, what are you doing?" I whispered, trying not to let Mom or the lawyer hear. Olivia startled and quickly turned off the screen. "Just handling some unfinished work, honey. Sorry." Her tone was light and familiar, so I didn't doubt further. Maybe it was true. She worked at her parents' real estate company and was always busy. I nodded and turned back to the lawyer. But that moment left a strange aftertaste. Why was she texting right now? And that fleeting smile. Happy. We left the office after an hour. It was still raining. Mom went home first. I drove Olivia back. In the car, I noticed she was noticeably cheerier than in recent days. She sang along with the radio, joking, "See, Dad left so much. You'll be fine." An unnameable enthusiasm while I remained immersed in the emptiness after such a great loss. "You're happy I inherited it?" I asked half-jokingly. She squeezed my hand. "Of course, you deserve it." I forced a smile, but unease filled my heart. On the drive home from the lawyer's office, rain still pattered steadily on the windshield, Pittsburgh hazy behind a veil of water. Olivia continued singing along to light pop music, her voice echoing in the car as if today were just an ordinary happy day. And me? I still felt as if I were floating in limbo. Dad's will wasn't a gift but a burden, a reminder that he was gone and everything he left behind was just cold numbers. "What will you do with that money?" Olivia asked, eyes sparkling. I shrugged. "I haven't thought about it yet. Maybe save it for the future." She nodded, but I noticed her smile lingered longer than usual, as if she were calculating something. 3 days after the will reading, I remained immersed in exhaustion and emptiness. Work at the steel mill felt heavier than ever. The clang of hammers on metal echoed like pounding in my head, reminding me of afternoons Dad took me to the shop and taught me how to hold a wrench. Every evening when I got home, I sat alone in the living room, staring out the dark window, trying to sort through my emotions. Mom called daily, her voice frail. "Are you okay, son? Don't push yourself too hard, it'll harm your health." I reassured her, but I was the one who needed comforting. Olivia was still there, but her cheerfulness felt unfamiliar. She shopped more, designer bags piling up in the corner, and when I asked, she laughed, "Just treating myself, honey. Life has to be enjoyable." Then that afternoon, as I sat on the sofa lost in thought with a cup of cold coffee, the doorbell rang. I was surprised. Who would visit at this hour? Pittsburgh was under heavy rain, water pounding the roof and drowning out the radio. I went to the door, and there stood Harold and Joyce Simmons, Olivia's parents. They appeared so suddenly without warning, bearing no signs of condolence, no flowers, no words. Just two stern faces under a black umbrella. Harold in his silver-gray suit, Joyce in an expensive fur coat, stood waiting. "Jacob, we need to talk," Harold said immediately, voice low and cold. I was momentarily taken aback. My heart beat faster. They had never visited unannounced, and after Dad's funeral, they hadn't even called to offer condolences. "Please come in," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, wiping my hands on my pants before leading them to the living room. They sat on the sofa without removing their coats, as if the visit would be brief. Olivia emerged from the kitchen, eyes lighting up. "Mom and Dad? Why didn't you let us know?" She hugged them quickly, then sat beside me, placing a hand on my thigh as if in support. Harold cleared his throat. "We need to talk to you. About something important." His tone was serious but cold, as if this were a business meeting rather than family. I nodded, waiting but filled with anxiety. Was it related to the will? Or just a belated visit? Throughout the conversation, they never mentioned William's death. No condolences, no comfort, no questions about how I was feeling after such a great loss. Harold got straight to the point, voice even like reading a report. Our company is in trouble, Jacob. Debts are piling up, recent investments have all failed. The real estate market in Erie is collapsing and we need capital to turn things around. Joyce nodded, eyes sharp on me. The situation is urgent. Without money, we could lose everything. I sat there, trying to process their words. Debts. They had always boasted about their successful company and luxurious trips. Why so sudden? They emphasized needing a large sum and didn't beat around the bush with the specific figure, $1.5 million. We need $1.5 million to pay debts and reinvest, Harold said decisively without hesitation. The way they made the request felt not like asking for help, but like something they assumed I owed. As if I were indebted to them, as if Dad's will were a shared family gift. My heart pounded, my mind reeled. 1.5 million? That was a huge portion of what Dad left me, but how did they know? I hadn't shared details with anyone except Olivia and Mom. I froze, still gathering my thoughts when Olivia interjected, voice sweet but firm. Jacob, I think we should help my parents. It's filial duty, family responsibility. Family should support each other in hard times. She squeezed my hand tighter, eyes pleading. Compared to the inheritance you just received, that amount is nothing. If it can save my family, it's what you should do. You're my husband, after all. Her words cut into my heart like a knife. Filial duty? Toward her family, who hadn't even attended Dad's funeral? I felt cornered between grief over losing Dad and pressure from my wife's family. I need time to think, I stammered, voice hoarse. The living room air suddenly grew heavy like a stone pressing on my chest. Harold and Joyce showed no displeasure. Harold nodded slightly, voice low and deliberate. We understand, Jacob. You need time. Then he paused, eyes growing heavier. But remember, we don't have much time. Debts are due soon. We hope you decide quickly. Joyce looked at me, corners of her mouth curving into a cold smile. We trust you'll do the right thing, she said lightly. But it made me feel an invisible weight added to my shoulders. They stood to leave, and in that moment I inadvertently caught Harold glancing at Olivia and nodding to her. A quick gesture, but enough to plant a vague unease in me. As if something had been prearranged, as if Olivia were part of this plan. The door closed, their car engine faded away, leaving me sitting there, mind spinning. I sat motionless on the sofa, hands gripping the glass of water tightly, trying to process what had just happened. $1.5 million. The figure echoed in my head like a warning bell. They had shown up suddenly without a word of condolence for my father, only talking about money. And that nod, it felt like a subtle signal, a confirmation between them and Olivia. I glanced at my wife. She was tidying dishes in the kitchen, humming a cheerful tune softly. Honey, what do you think about what just happened? I asked, voice slightly trembling. Olivia turned back, smiling. Don't worry, honey, my parents are just going through a tough time. Think it over carefully. She gave me a quick hug, but that embrace felt strangely distant. That night I lay awake, memories of Dad flooding in. He always taught me to help others, but also warned, don't let people take advantage of your kindness. Was this taking advantage? In the days following that meeting, everything began to change subtly, like small cracks spreading across glass. I gradually noticed a clear shift in Olivia, not dramatic or sudden, but persistent and impossible to ignore. Before, she had always been open, sharing everything about work after dinner. Now she became more guarded, as if hiding something. Early mornings, when I got up to brew coffee, I'd see her on the balcony, phone pressed to her ear, voice unusually lowered. I'll try to convince him. He hasn't decided yet. When I stepped out, she hung up immediately, like a conditioned reflex, then beamed. Good morning, honey. My heart skipped a beat, but I tried to stay calm. Who was that? Olivia shrugged. Just work. Don't worry about it. I can handle it. Her light but firm tone stopped me from pressing further, but doubt began to gnaw at me. It happened more frequently. Olivia often chose secluded spots in the house for calls, the bathroom, the garage, even stepping outside the gate. I caught snippets of her voice. "We need to hurry. Time won't wait." Whenever I approached, she ended the call abruptly, face flushing. "Sorry, honey. Difficult client." I asked multiple times, but the answers were always the same. "Just company stuff. Focus on your own work." I tried convincing myself it was work stress, but why did it coincide with her parents' request? Late at night, when she thought I was asleep, I heard her phone vibrate softly under the pillow. I pretended to stir, and she quickly silenced it. The next morning, I secretly checked the call history. Dozens of calls from Harold and Joyce in a single week. My heart raced. What were they discussing? She began bringing up her parents' requests sporadically, not directly pressuring but subtly suggesting. Over breakfast, "I think my parents are waiting for your answer. Time isn't on their side." While watching TV in the evening, "Don't you think helping family is the right thing? It's just 1.5 million. I dodged. "I need more time to think." But each comment was like a drop of water accumulating into a stream. I felt the pressure building, like someone tightening a noose around my neck. Once I snapped, "Not now, okay? Dad just died. I can't think about it yet." Olivia fell silent, but her eyes flashed disappointment. Every time we visited Harold and Joyce in Erie, Pennsylvania, those weekend trips I once saw as relaxing, the topic was skillfully brought up again. We drove 2 hours on winding highways, and upon arrival they welcomed us with lavish dinners. But beneath the guise of care and concern, everything circled back to the same issue. Harold started casually. "Our company is still struggling, Jacob. Have you thought about it?" Joyce followed smoothly, voice soft but unmistakably pressing. "We don't want to pressure you, but the bank loan is due soon." Olivia sat beside me, nodding slightly, looking at me expectantly. "Jacob, I believe you'll help my parents." I sat there, a bitter taste rising in my throat, forcing a smile. "I'm still thinking." On the drive home, Olivia was silent for a long while before speaking. "Don't you feel sorry for my parents? All you have to do is say yes and it's over." The pent-up pressure felt like an overinflated balloon, waiting for the slightest prick to burst. Amid the confusion, I inadvertently noticed something puzzling. One evening, while scrolling social media to relax, I saw Joyce's recent Facebook post, a photo of her at a luxury resort in Florida holding a cocktail captioned, "Enjoyable weekend getaway," posted just days after our meeting. New car? New designer items? Scrolling further, I saw Harold boasting about a new Mercedes. Completely contradicting their tales of mounting debts and impending bankruptcy, they maintained a lavish lifestyle. Expensive restaurant dinners, uninterrupted trips from Hawaii to Europe, Olivia's Instagram full of photos. I double-checked during in-person visits. Their house still opulent, fridge stocked with pricey wine, garage with a new sports car. How was it possible? If debts were crushing, why no cutbacks? That contradiction left me in prolonged confusion, mind constantly strained like trying to force mismatched puzzle pieces together. I wondered if I'd misunderstood the situation or was unwittingly drawn into a prearranged story, where every word and attitude had intent. The more I thought, the more uneasy I felt, as if I were in a play with a scripted plot, and I was the only one unaware. Meanwhile, Olivia increased the emotional pressure. She frequently mentioned the massive inheritance I now held. "You're rich now. If you want, all my family's problems are solved." Those hints cut like a knife, making me feel not like a husband, but like a bank account. When I didn't give the answer she wanted, Olivia changed tactics. She turned to crying, tears coming slowly but persistently. One evening after dinner, she sat silently on the sofa, then burst into sobs. "Don't you love me?" she said, voice trembling. "I'm under so much pressure. My parents are about to go bankrupt. As my husband, you have to help. I feel so helpless. I'm just a daughter. Tears streamed down her face, hands covering it, shoulders shaking as if breaking. I went to her, holding her, feeling weakened. "I'll think about it again," I said, almost a promise more than an answer. But as I held her, a cold thought emerged clearly. Why didn't she cry when my dad died, but only when talking about money? Those erratic changes left me in prolonged stress, bearing the grief of losing Dad, each morning waking to that void, while facing growing psychological pressure from the very wife I shared a bed with. Work at the mill became harder. I forgot instructions, colleagues asking, "You okay, Jacob?" I just nodded with a forced smile. But at night I sat alone on the porch lighting a cigarette, an old habit I thought I'd quit long ago, and let thoughts drift in silence. I wondered where this marriage was truly leading me. For the first time, I clearly felt Olivia no longer saw me as a husband, but as the assets I possessed. Every hug, every kiss seemed laced with invisible calculation, as if I had gradually become the solution to all her problems rather than a person needing to be heard and understood. The next morning, what seemed like an ordinary workday was interrupted when my phone vibrated on the desk at the steel mill. The surrounding machinery noise partially drowned it out, but I glanced at the screen, an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a second, then answered professionally. "This is Jacob Turner." On the other end, a young woman's voice, tense but youthful. "Jacob, it's Rachel, Olivia's sister." I was momentarily stunned, nearly dropping the phone. Rachel, Olivia's younger sister by 5 years, the girl I had only interacted with a few times during visits to her parents' house. She was always quiet at family dinners with big round eyes and a shy smile. We had never spoken privately, just polite greetings. "Rachel, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but my heart was already beating faster. She sighed. "Jacob, I have something very important to tell you in person. It can't be over the phone. Can you meet me?" Her voice was more serious than usual, laced with worry, sending a chill down my spine. What could make Rachel, the one who always avoided family issues, call me like this? Though I didn't understand what was happening, I agreed to meet her that afternoon after work at a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. "I'll wait for you at Corner Brew at 4 p.m., Rachel said, then hung up quickly as if afraid someone might overhear. I stood there amid the roaring machinery, mind in turmoil. Why Rachel? She had never contacted me before. Was it related to Olivia and her parents, or just some minor family matter? I tried to focus on work, overseeing the steel smelting shift, but my hands trembled slightly holding the notebook. A colleague asked, "You okay, Jacob? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a smile. "I'm fine, just tired." But inside I was filled with anxiety, like stepping into a storm without knowing it. On the drive to the meeting, my mind kept circling the question, what could make Rachel arrange an urgent meeting like this, especially in the current sensitive situation? Pittsburgh, an autumn afternoon, golden leaves scattering the highway, but I had no mood to admire it. I suddenly recalled recent images flashing in my mind. Times meeting Rachel at her parents' house in Erie. She often sat in a corner observing everyone with pitying glances toward me, as if she wanted to say something but held back. When I arrived at Corner Brew, Rachel was already waiting in a secluded corner, looking tense and weary. The small shop smelled warmly of roasted coffee, but the air between us was heavy. Rachel wore a gray hoodie, hair in a messy ponytail, eyes red as if she'd been crying. She stood to give me a light hug, voice trembling. "Thank you for coming." I sat down, ordered 2 lattes, trying to stay calm. "Tell me, what's this about that you had to meet me here? I'm worried." Rachel took a deep breath, glancing around as if fearing surveillance, then began to speak. Each word cut into my heart like a knife, making the surrounding air heavier than ever. The coffee shop seemed to fall silent, only her whispers and my pounding heart remaining. Rachel said that on the very day of William's funeral, the day I painfully bid farewell to Dad, standing by the casket with my trembling mother, her parents had thrown a celebration party at home. They opened wine, laughing and talking cheerfully, Rachel recounted, voice choked. They said you were about to receive a huge inheritance from your dad and it was a golden opportunity. I froze, hands gripping the coffee cup until my knuckles turned white. Celebrating? While I wept at Dad's grave? Rachel continued. At that party, my parents told each other you were an obedient, honest, and compliant son-in-law. They said it was just a matter of time before they could get money from you. Her words struck like thunder. Everything around me blurred. I suddenly recalled their cold absence at the funeral. Olivia constantly texting with her head down. For the first time, I pieced together all the fragments and they fit together terrifyingly. Rachel revealed that Olivia was the one providing information to her parents. Olivia told them everything, Jacob, from overhearing a conversation between your parents about the will when they visited a few months ago. She eavesdropped, then reported to my parents. Even during the recent will reading, she texted details of every item. Cash, shares, real estate, all of it. I gaped, speechless. Olivia, my wife, the person I trusted more than anyone, had been secretly monitoring and reporting everything. The time she bowed her head texting in the lawyer's office, her sudden cheerfulness afterward. It all made sense. Rachel paused, then continued firmly. Olivia had closely coordinated with her parents to psychologically pressure me from the start. My family isn't in debt or facing bankruptcy at all, Jacob, she said. It's all a scripted lie to exploit your kindness. The company is fine. They're still spending lavishly. Olivia knows it all, and she's still participating just for the money. Rachel confessed that out of pity for my honest and kind nature, and unable to bear watching me being deceived, she decided to meet and reveal the whole truth. I struggled with myself for a long time, Jacob, Rachel said softly. I knew speaking out would fracture the family. I might even get kicked out. But you deserve the truth. You've always been kind to my sister and our family, yet they treat you like this. Her voice broke, tears streamed down. I sat there, numb from what I'd heard. No more vague doubts or confusion. All the pieces from recent days suddenly fit terrifyingly. The secretive calls, the smiles at the funeral, Harold's nod, the lavish lifestyle contradicting tales of poverty. It was all a charade. Olivia, whom I'd loved for 8 years, had betrayed me for money. My heart ached sharply as if torn apart. I thanked Rachel for having the courage to tell the truth, voice hoarse. Thank you, Rachel. You've saved me. She nodded, wiping tears. Be careful. They won't stop easily. We hugged goodbye and I left the coffee shop in a daze. My steps heavy on the rain-wet sidewalk, Pittsburgh seeming to darken. Carrying the feeling that my entire marriage and the trust I'd held had completely collapsed. I stepped out to the car, hands trembling as I inserted the key into the ignition. Rain pattered steadily on the windshield, blurring everything like my vision at that moment. I drove in a daze, foot mechanically pressing the accelerator, eyes on the road but mind adrift. Old memories surged back like a film reel rewinding, each scene vivid and piercing, making my heart ache sharply. I remembered those dinners at my in-laws' house in Erie. Weekend evenings I once thought were for family bonding. I was always the last to sit at the table, often placed off to the side, like a temporary guest rather than a son-in-law. Harold at the head, Joyce beside him, Olivia across, and me? The end seat near the kitchen door where the clatter of dishes drowned out my voice. Once I tried joining the conversation about a trip. I think we should try the beach next time. But Harold just smirked. You're used to Pittsburgh. The ocean wouldn't suit you. Everyone laughed and I fell silent, swallowing my frustration. I remembered how my opinions were ignored in discussions. Like when they planned buying a new house for us. They decided everything, then informed me. Jacob, we think a house on the Erie outskirts suits you two better, Joyce said, as if my input didn't matter. I nodded. Okay, if you think so. But inside, it stung. Why not ask me first? Why always treat me like an outsider? And I remembered the half-joking remarks reminding me to be grateful for marrying Olivia and entering a more affluent family. Harold often said, You're lucky, Jacob. Olivia chose you over so many guys. Our family has means, so you need to step up to be worthy. I forced a smile, telling myself it was just teasing, but now it was clear. Subtle contempt. For years I chose silence, concession, convincing myself it was just family differences. They're wealthier, used to luxury. I'll endure a bit for harmony, I told myself nightly, holding Olivia as we slept. But now it was obvious. I'd been a fool, exploited from the start. Snapping back to reality, the car was on the highway heading home, but for the first time a cold, sharp anger rose clearly. Not explosive like past minor arguments, but calm, resolute, like an underground river erupting, sweeping away all hesitation. "This is enough," I whispered, gripping the steering wheel tightly. I suddenly swerved, making a sharp U-turn, tires screeching on the wet road. I drove straight toward my in-laws' house in Erie, giving myself no moment to second guess. Heart pounding in my chest, adrenaline surging fiercely as if charging into a battle I knew deep down. This time, I couldn't back down. Rain poured harder. Headlights pierced the night, illuminating once familiar roads that now felt alien and cold, like the marriage I was about to confront. The 2-hour drive flew by and I arrived in pitch darkness. Harold and Joyce's house was lit up, the new Mercedes parked in the garage, a symbol of their deceit. I parked, took a deep breath, then entered without knocking. I still had the spare key. Stepping into the living room, I froze, seeing Olivia there, sitting on the sofa beside her mother, completely contradicting her afternoon text. "Honey, I'm working late tonight, so I'll be home a bit later. Love you." She startled and looked up, face instantly paling. Olivia jumped to her feet, voice faltering. "Jacob, why are you here? What are you doing?" Harold rose from his armchair, eyes darkening, tone sharp. "You barge in without notice? What brings you storming here like this?" That moment alone was enough for everything inside me to collapse. The secretive calls, the urgency about time, the exchanged glances behind my back, none of it random. On the table were half-finished wine glasses, scattered papers, like an interrupted meeting. My chest tightened, but the calm anger propelled me forward. I looked straight at Harold and Joyce, voice slow but ice-cold. "Harold, Joyce, I know everything now. I know about the party you threw on the day of my father's funeral." The living room air froze. I didn't stop. "You toasted celebrating because you believed I was about to receive a large inheritance. And the will. Olivia relayed every detail to you, didn't she?" Olivia covered her mouth, eyes wide, breathing rapid. Harold scoffed, trying to maintain disdain. "What nonsense are you spouting? Who told you that? Rachel? That girl always imagines things." Joyce jumped in, voice full of feigned injustice. "Jacob, you're overinterpreting. We just asked for help in hard times. Why fabricate stories to avoid responsibility? You're too selfish." I breathed deeply, keeping calm. "Your company isn't bankrupt. If debts were truly crushing, what about the new car, new designer items, those expensive trips? You say one thing but live another." Harold slammed his hand on the table, anger erupting. "Fine. If you know, so what? It's all for family. You only think of your own pain and won't shoulder the burden when relatives are in trouble. Is the money your dad left just for you to hoard?" Joyce burst into tears, voice trembling but tearless. "We treat you like our own son. We trusted you. And you treat us like this?" Olivia finally broke down. She stepped forward, clutching my hand, tears streaming. "Jacob, please. I beg you, it's my family. You promised to protect me. Have you forgotten our years together?" She choked up, trying to pull me back into the familiar vortex. "Remember our wedding day? You said you'd never leave me. Always be by my side no matter what." In that moment, my heart softened briefly. Old images flashed, vows, smiles, the trust I'd poured into this marriage. But then I realized those words were being used as a tool, not to keep me out of love, but to force continued sacrifice. I looked straight at Olivia, voice lowering. "What hurts me most isn't the money. It's that you never asked if I could bear it right after Dad died." Olivia froze, lips parting but speechless. I spoke slowly but firmly, eyes no longer avoiding. I'm not selfish. You're the ones exploiting. And you, Olivia, you betrayed me from the beginning. I stepped back, voice turning cold. I won't stay in this fake house another second. Don't contact me again. I quietly left, leaving behind Harold's empty justifications shouted in rage. You'll regret this, Jacob, Olivia cried out after me, voice shattering. The door closed behind me. Rain lashed my face, stinging cold, but strangely I felt relief, as if I'd finally shed a burden weighing on me for years, and stepped out of a family I now knew for certain I had never truly belonged to. I walked quickly to the car, rain soaking my shirt, but I didn't care. The engine roared to life, drowning out the shouts calling my name from the house. Olivia's voice echoed, but I didn't turn back. On the highway from Erie to Pittsburgh, rain poured relentlessly, headlights illuminated glistening puddles. I drove in utter exhaustion, body weary from the 2-hour drive there and now back, mind reeling from the confrontation. The anger lingered, but now it mingled with a cold emptiness, a vast void where trust once existed. I pulled over to the shoulder, sat motionless for a long while, breathing heavily, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Memories of the celebration party on the day of Dad's funeral flooded back, painfully vivid, them laughing, toasting, opening wine, while I knelt broken at his grave. The thought tightened my chest. With everything that had happened, how could I ever forgive? Back home in Pittsburgh, late at night, rain still falling ceaselessly. I pushed open the door. The house was pitch black, smelling musty. Olivia wasn't home, perhaps staying with her parents, plotting the next move. I collapsed onto the sofa, head tilted back, staring wide-eyed at the ceiling. The emptiness mixed with anger kept sleep at bay. Everything spun. Harold's flushed face when exposed, Joyce's fake tears, Olivia's desperate clinging. I tried closing my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, memories surged. Our wedding day, Olivia radiant in white, promising forever. Now what? All lies. That night, as the clock struck midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I called Eleanor, my mother. For the first time, I poured out everything about my wife's family and our marriage. The phone rang a few times. Her sleepy voice answered, "Jacob? Why calling so late, son?" I took a deep breath, then let it all out. Their absence at Dad's funeral, the leaked will, the celebration party, the 1.5 million scheme, and tonight's confrontation. My voice trembled. Tears rolled down unnoticed. Mom listened silently, only sighing occasionally. When I finished, she said, voice warm yet resolute, "Son, it breaks my heart. But you don't owe anyone your self-sacrifice. They exploited you and you've endured enough. Do what you believe is right to protect yourself. I'm always here." Her words soothed the anger like cool water. I cried, first time since Dad's funeral. "Thank you for listening, Mom." The call ended, but my heart felt a bit lighter. After a long night of thinking, actually staying awake, brewing cup after cup of coffee, I reached a firm decision. This marriage had nothing left to salvage. Divorce echoed in my mind, heavy but necessary. I no longer wanted to live in deceit, to look at Olivia and see calculation. The next morning I went to the steel mill as usual, but my mind was elsewhere. Colleagues asked, "You look like a zombie, Jacob." I forced a smile. Just didn't sleep. But during the shift I planned, call a lawyer, prepare papers, confront Olivia. Anxiety surged. What would her reaction be? Tears? Anger? The following evening, when Olivia returned home, I was waiting in the living room. Yellow light cast down, the house oppressively quiet. She entered, shoulders slightly slumped from fatigue, forcing a familiar smile. "Honey, I'm home." Work was exhausting today, my head spinning. I looked at her for a long time. Still the same face, the woman I'd once loved and trusted completely. But in that moment, she felt heartbreakingly unfamiliar, like someone I'd never truly known. I breathed deeply, refusing to back down. I said slowly, voice low, "Olivia, I've thought it through carefully, and I want a divorce. Her face instantly changed. The glass in her hand shook, nearly slipping. She exclaimed, voice breaking, "What did you just say?" Olivia burst into tears almost immediately. She rushed toward me, then knelt beside me, tears streaming uncontrollably. "Jacob, please think again," she choked. "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. But I can change. Give me a chance, just this once. I love you. I truly love you." Her voice shattered, hands clutched mine, trembling as if fearing I'd vanish. I sat still, letting her cry. My heart ached sharply. Old memories flashed. Nights she rested her head on my shoulder after long shifts, weekends driving away together, times I believed I had a real family. But then other images intruded. The celebration party, secretive calls, sneaky texts, and the anger rose again, cold and clear. I gently withdrew my hand, looking straight at her and saying word by word, "I've endured a lot, Olivia. Not just one day, but for years. The disdain from your family, dinners where I was always sidelined, my opinions ignored, sarcastic remarks about your family's means. I swallowed it all, thinking it was the price for keeping this marriage." She shook her head frantically, tears wetting my hands, but I continued, "You never stood by me. I tolerated it for you. But now I see clearly. You no longer see me as a husband. You only see the assets I have." Olivia sobbed harder, voice breaking. "That's not true. You've misunderstood. My parents pressured me. I had no choice." I shook my head, exhaustion rising to my throat. "Dad died, Olivia. You weren't sad. You were only happy about the will. And from that moment I knew everything had changed. I no longer believe these belated apologies." She cried louder, clinging to me like a drowning person. "Please don't leave me. I was wrong, but I don't want to lose you. I beg you." I gently pushed her away and stood. My heart wavered briefly, but truth held me steady. I said softly but firmly, "Enough, Olivia. I'm exhausted." The room filled with her choked sobs. I stood there knowing I'd just said the most painful but necessary thing in my life. In the following days, Olivia begged incessantly. She stayed home, seemingly going nowhere, cooking my old favorites, cleaning the kitchen like newlyweds. Her texts came nonstop, long and full of memories and promises. "Honey, remember the day we met? I loved you from then. I know I was wrong, but I'll change. I truly promise." Her repeated tears and pleas softened me at times. Some evenings she sat before me, eyes red, voice trembling. "Don't you see I'm trying? Just give me a little more time, I'll prove it." Once entering the living room, I found Olivia collapsed on the floor, sobbing breathlessly. She grasped my pant leg, nearly desperate. "I can't live without you, Jacob. I can't bear this. Please don't leave me." In that moment, I nearly bent to hold her, nearly said, "All right, I'll forgive you." But then the phone rang again, call after call from Harold and Joyce. "Jacob, reconsider," Harold said, voice feigned low. "We were wrong. Money doesn't matter anymore, forget it all." Joyce added, choked, "Olivia's falling apart. Have mercy on her. Every family has mistakes." Pressure mounted daily. I began wondering if I was too harsh, if I should give everyone another chance. The next morning, when I was closest to softening, I watched Olivia sleeping peacefully on the bed, face serene as if no deceit had ever existed. I recalled happy days, mornings brewing coffee together, her head on my shoulder. Just then the phone rang, Rachel calling, her voice urgent, barely hiding panic. "Jacob, I overheard my parents and Olivia talking. They're pretending to yield to make you relax. Actually, they're planning another way to get the money, perhaps through divorce asset split, then pushing you out. Don't believe them, please." Those words struck like lightning, extinguishing any remaining hesitation. I froze, looking at Olivia, still sleeping peacefully, but now seeing clearly the mask I'd ignored for so long. No more debate, no more confrontation. I understood every plea, every tear was part of a more sophisticated plan. I hung up, sat silently on the bed's edge, heart cold to the point of no longer feeling pain. I decisively filed for divorce in court without prior notice, letting no more emotions sway me. That morning I called a separate lawyer, recommended by Mom, and prepared papers. "Mr. Turner, this case is clear. Your inheritance won't be divided if proven," the lawyer said. I nodded, signed, heart heavy but resolute. Olivia returned that afternoon, seeing the papers on the table. "You're really doing this?" she cried, but I remained silent and left the house. The trial proceeded quickly, just weeks later, thanks to recorded calls, texts, and Rachel's testimony. Assets divided legally. I kept Dad's inheritance. She took the joint property. Olivia cried throughout the hearing. Her parents sat behind, faces darkened. I left the courtroom in pain yet relief, as if finally setting down a heavy part of life, though the cut still stung. I knew I'd ended a false marriage, not for revenge or escape, but to preserve the last shred of self-respect I'd nearly lost. Outside Pittsburgh bathed in golden sunlight. People hurried as if nothing had happened, but inside me the sky remained gray. Yet amid that gloom I knew I'd chosen the right path, painful but necessary, to continue walking without bowing my head. I stepped out of the courthouse, holding the stack of divorce papers still warm with ink, feeling as if the whole world was staring at me. But no, people hurried on with their own lives, a man pushing a cart, a couple laughing on the sidewalk. Only I had changed. Olivia sat in the courtroom sobbing as the judge banged the gavel, but I didn't look back. Her parents, Harold and Joyce, sat behind, faces darkened, whispering something. I knew they wouldn't stop easily, but now the law had separated us. Dad's inheritance was mine. Joint assets split evenly, fair and cold like a business contract. I drove to the old house but didn't go in right away, just sitting in the car staring at the familiar place, where we once laughed, cooked, and now only shattered memories remained. After the divorce, I moved out of the old house immediately. I didn't want to stay where memories lingered. Olivia's perfume still faintly on the pillows, wedding photos on the walls like painful reminders. I rented a small apartment elsewhere in the city in a quiet suburb near the steel mill. Just one bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a balcony overlooking the Allegheny River. I quietly completed the remaining legal procedures, changing property titles, transferring bank accounts, even getting a new phone number to avoid harassing calls. The lawyer called. "Mr. Turner, everything okay? They might appeal." I shook my head. "Let them. I'm ready." But my heart wasn't at peace. Each signed paper felt like another cut into an old wound. I began a new, simple, and withdrawn life, like a snail retreating into its shell. No noisy friends, no parties, just a steady rhythm to survive. Wake early, brew bitter black coffee, drive to the mill. Foreman work remained the same, overseeing smelting shifts, checking safety, shouting orders over machinery noise. But the pain of betrayal lingered persistently, not explosive like the early days, but smoldering through each passing one. Every evening in the apartment, I sat alone on the worn sofa, gazing at the river twinkling with night lights. Memories flooded. Olivia smiling in the kitchen, then turning into the fake smile at Dad's funeral. I wondered, why didn't I see it sooner? Sleep was fitful. I often woke midnight, sweating from dreams of them chasing me with giant checks. I maintained a steady routine, work then back to the empty apartment. Weekends occasionally driving to visit Mom in Pittsburgh's outskirts. My mother, Eleanor, now lived alone in Dad's old house, but she was stronger than I thought. "You did something hard, but I understand. And I'm on your side," she said each visit, hugging me tightly. We sat on the porch, drinking tea, sharing small talk. Her garden, my shifts. I checked if she needed anything, fixing plumbing, buying groceries to ensure she was okay and not worrying about me. But Mom knew everything. "Don't hide it, I know you're hurting. Time will heal." I nodded, but my heart remained heavy. Those visits were my only anchor, keeping me from sinking deeper into loneliness. Those months passed quietly, without events or clear joy. just the steady existence of a man learning to live anew from scratch. I avoided social media, deleted old photos, unwilling to see what Olivia posted, perhaps living happily with her family, new trips. Work became my salvation. Hammer clangs drowned thoughts. Sweat-soaked shirts helped forget pain. But evenings in the empty apartment reminded, alone. I tried reading books, Dad's old novels, but words danced before my eyes. Once I tried a bar alone, but loud music only made me miss Olivia more, so I left early. Anxiety lingered. Would they retaliate? In that prolonged monotony, the rare bright spot in my life was Rachel. Olivia's sister, the one who pulled me from a web of lies, maintained a perfect distance, enough not to pressure me, but never vanishing from my life. After the divorce, we only texted a few times, brief but warm. "How are you lately? I just want to know you're okay." I replied after a pause. "I'm okay. Not easy, but I'm trying. Thanks for asking." Rachel responded slowly, choosing words carefully. "I'm glad you say that. If any day feels too heavy, message me." No need to explain. She didn't push, wasn't curious, didn't probe fresh wounds, as if understanding I needed not advice but quiet, respectful presence. Gradually, I realized her presence was like a small candle in darkness. One rainy afternoon on the balcony alone, I recalled our coffee shop meeting. Rachel's pitying eyes, trembling voice, revealing truth. Without her, I'd still be deceived, still giving money, still living lies. I proactively called to meet and thank her. "Rachel, I want to see you. Just to say thank you." Her voice surprised but happy. "Sure, the old cafe?" We met at Familiar Corner Brew, where truth was once revealed. Rachel arrived early in a warm sweater, hair down, shy smile. "Jacob, how have you been?" I sat, ordered coffee, then said, "Rachel, I owe you a sincere thank you. Without you, I'd still be in a marriage full of lies. You were so brave." Rachel smiled at my words, gently shaking her head. "Don't think that way. You deserved the truth in a better life. I just did what was right." Her words simple but warm, making me feel understood for the first time in months. We talked a while, her office job in eerie, tiring days. No mention of Olivia or family, just everyday things. Parting, I hugged her lightly. "Stay in touch." Rachel nodded. "Definitely." From that meeting, we contacted more often, naturally, without planning. At first, just snippets about work, long dragging days, ordinary fatigue. One evening I texted, "Long shift today, my mind's blank." Rachel replied almost immediately, "I know that feeling. Just got home. Rest, tomorrow will be better." Gradually, the old distance of ex-wife's sister faded. A natural closeness formed based on respect and understanding rather than obligations. Rachel didn't force past talk, but when I shared, she listened. "It hurts a lot, doesn't it?" "I understand." I told about Dad, Mom. She shared home struggles, parents angry for betraying them. We gradually shared small joys and nameless sorrows lightly, without force. Once I snapped a sunrise photo from the balcony and sent, "Today's sunrise is beautiful." Soon after, she replied, "I love it too. Looks like a new beginning." Other times, sadness came suddenly. I texted briefly, "Missing Dad today?" Rachel didn't probe, just, "I'm here. Tell me if you want, I'll listen." No advice needed, no long explanations, just enough to ease my heart. Gradually, I realized we both found rare peace in each other, being heard and together without pretense, something we'd both lacked for long. I, after betrayal, needed sincerity. She, in a pressured family, needed a listener. Our feelings grew slowly and quietly, without promises or naming it. Not loud love, but natural bond, without calculation. We met a few times, coffee, river walks, hours talking. Each time my heart felt lighter, wounds healing. Yet deep down, I still sensed hesitation and silent fear. We both knew if we took another step, it would invite countless judging glances, whispers, new hurts. After everything, neither had courage for another storm. We cherished the fragile quiet we'd regained, fearing one hasty decision could shatter it. So we walked slowly, keeping just enough distance so no one had to sacrifice again. The months following the divorce passed peacefully, like the Allegheny River flowing steadily through Pittsburgh, quiet but gradually erasing the scars. I lived in the small apartment with simple habits, waking early to brew coffee, going to work at the steel mill, coming home in the evenings to read books or watch the news. Rachel and I stayed in touch, but without pressure. A casual message, a short weekend call. "Busy today?" I'd ask, and she'd laugh over the phone. "Busy but happy. How about you?" Those conversations were like gentle medicine, helping me forget the sleepless nights dwelling on the past. But then, like a sudden storm, everything was stirred up again. One late afternoon after work, I returned to the apartment exhausted, shoulders heavy from a long shift amid roaring machinery. Pittsburgh was sinking into dusk, streetlights flickering through the fog. I stepped out of the elevator, mind wandering to a simple dinner, maybe just a sandwich and beer, when I unexpectedly saw Harold and Joyce waiting outside my door. Their faces were tense and full of resentment. Harold arms crossed, Joyce lips pressed tight as if suppressing anger. My heart skipped a beat. How did they know my address? I'd never told anyone after moving. "Harold, Joyce, what are you doing here?" I asked, trying to stay calm but filled with unease. They hadn't contacted me since the trial, and now this sudden appearance couldn't be good. Though uncomfortable, actually extremely irritated, recalling their fake excuses in Erie, I maintained politeness and invited them in. "Come inside and talk." I opened the door, leading them to the cramped living room with its old sofa and coffee table. They sat down. Before I could even offer water, they got straight to the point, Harold's voice harsh. "Jacob, we know everything. You and Rachel, your romantic relationship. We won't accept it." His words struck like lightning. I froze, hands gripping the table edge. How did they know? We'd never gone public, only meeting discreetly, private messages. Joyce jumped in, voice shrill. "You're taking advantage of our youngest daughter. After divorcing Olivia, you turned to Rachel? Immoral." The barrage of accusations poured down like hail, no time to dodge. Harold stepped forward, pointing at my face, voice growling in fury. "You're an opportunist, using Rachel for revenge against us, right? You think that's noble? You're tarnishing our family's honor. Who do you think you are?" Joyce burst into sobs, but every word sharp as a knife. "Rachel's so young. How many years older are you? Aren't you ashamed? Pervert, traitor. You've destroyed our family." Their rage gave me no breath. Whenever I tried to speak, voice still measured. "Please listen to my explanation. It's not what you think." Harold cut me off, slamming the table. "Explain what? We have proof. Messages, photos. Everything clear. You think we're blind?" Joyce added, voice rising in agitation. "You thought you could fool us? You think we don't know how you two sneak around?" I sat there, heart pounding, seething inside but forcing calm. Proof? Who spied on us? Olivia? Or hired detectives? Questions swirled, making everything spin. I'd thought my new life stable enough, yet now dragged back into another vicious vortex. As their anger subsided, Harold panting, Joyce wiping tears, I finally spoke. My voice calm but cold and resolute. "Harold, Joyce, you no longer have the right to judge my life like before. Rachel and I, it's our business. I take responsibility for my choices." I looked straight at them, unflinching. "You've caused enough harm, and I won't let it continue in my life." My words like cold water. Harold shot up, face flushed. "You'll regret this, Jacob." Joyce shook her head repeatedly, voice full of resentment. "Rachel will suffer because of you. You'll see." They left in fury, door slamming behind them, leaving me alone in the suddenly emptier room. I sat motionless for seconds, feeling both exhausted and relieved at once. For the first time, I didn't back down or concede as before. The next day, I met Rachel at our familiar cafe, hiding nothing about the confrontation. We sat in the secluded corner, coffee steaming. My parents came to my place last night. They know about us. Rachel paled, hands gripping her cup. I know. They scolded me all night. She said her parents berated and strictly forbade her. They called me a family traitor for telling the truth before and now being with you. Dad said he'd cut all contact if I don't stop. Rachel's voice trembled, eyes welling. I'm scared, but I don't want to lose you. I wrapped my arms around her, holding gently to reassure us both. Me neither. We'll get through it. Amid surrounding pressures, her family's rage, external judging glances, we chose not to turn away, quietly standing together. I said slowly, reminding myself, we'll keep it private, take it step by step, no rush. Rachel nodded, a thin but determined smile, enough for me to know she was ready too. In the following days, malicious rumors about our relationship spread on social media. Scrolling Facebook, I saw anonymous posts. Jacob Turner exploiting ex-wife's sister, a hypocrite. Rachel sent screenshots from Instagram. They say I'm a home wrecker. We both knew the source, Harold, Joyce, and Olivia, likely spreading or hiring posters. Messages and calls from them flooded in, so thick I silenced the phone. Olivia texted directly, undisguised hatred. Your relationship with my sister disgusts me. Harold called repeatedly, voice threatening. Stop it, or I'll expose everything. I read, listened, then chose silence. Turned off the phone, no response, telling myself time was the clearest, fairest answer. We didn't retaliate, just withdrew quietly. Contact became more discreet, meetings shifted farther from the center, messages short and cautious, as if every word could be spied. Anxiety built in me. Would they do something more extreme? One night leaving the parking lot, I found a long scratch on the car body, unclear if accidental or deliberate, no clues. That night I dreamed them surrounding us, shouting endless curses. I woke gasping, heart pounding, immediately checking security cameras, nothing. That silence was scarier than threats. In that deadlock, Rachel and I turned to Eleanor's house, clinging to faint hope for at least one ally. We drove to Mom's one weekend afternoon, hearts anxious. What will your mom think of me? Rachel asked, hands trembling. I squeezed hers. She's kind. She'll support us. We sat on the porch. Mom brewed tea, placing cups on the old wooden table, warm aroma spreading in the late afternoon air. I told everything, hiding nothing. The confrontation with Harold and Joyce, heavy scolding, malicious online rumors forcing us to live cautiously. Eleanor listened from start to finish, never interrupting, eyes deepening with thought and sympathy for us. When I finished, she set down her cup, looked at me long, then said calmly but firmly, Son, I see it all clearly. Rachel is kind. She brings you true peace and happiness. You've done nothing wrong. She turned to Rachel, gently holding her hand. Thank you, dear. Without you, Jacob might still be trapped in a false marriage. That trust and understanding stunned me. My throat tightened. Tears welled unnoticed. Thank you, Mom. I really needed to hear that. Rachel cried too, head bowed, sobbing. Thank you. In that moment on the quiet porch, I first clearly felt what unconditional support was, like a real family. We lingered, talking in rare light, warm atmosphere. Mom slowly shared old stories about Dad, voice low but gentle. He always told me true love doesn't need show, just enough sincerity to stay through hardship. Rachel listened, then softly shared her struggles. My parents are furious, but I chose him. No judgment, no interruptions. We laughed, ate Mom's fresh-baked cookies, small stories flowing, and for the first time in so long, I clearly felt what it was to have a family on my side. That afternoon at Mom's, Eleanor's passed warmly, like an oasis amid the chaos of recent months. We sat on the old porch, Pittsburgh's autumn breeze blowing gently, carrying the scent of falling golden leaves. Mom shared memories of Dad, William, her voice soft. He always said true love is finding someone who makes you better. Rachel listened attentively, eyes glistening, and I sat between them, hand tightly holding hers under the table. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. Mom here, Rachel beside me like a small but sturdy circle. As we left, Mom hugged Rachel tightly. "Take care, dear, and visit often." Rachel blushed and nodded. On the drive back to the apartment, Rachel whispered, "I feel hope now." I nodded, but worry lingered, the online rumors, harassing calls from Olivia and her parents still lurking like shadows. Time passed and the noise and gossip gradually subsided. At first, social media boiled with malicious posts. Jacob Turner stealing ex-wife's sister. Rachel Simmons betraying family to spreading like wildfire. I scrolled a few times, seeing comments from Olivia's friends. Such a disgusting act. She deserves a better man. We chose silence, no retaliation, no explanations, knowing arguing would only fuel the fire. Gradually, with no one stoking the initial rage, it cooled. Posts sank amid new news. Calls from Harold and Joyce grew sparse, only occasional threatening messages. "You'll regret this." But we stayed together resiliently, like ancient oaks weathering a storm. Every evening we video called, sharing small daily stories. Rachel often sighed softly, voice tired but warm. "Long day at work. I'm exhausted, but thinking of you makes it all ease." I smiled through the screen, replying slowly and sincerely. "Same here. No matter how long the day, hearing your voice makes me feel okay." Yet anxiety still crept in like an unrelenting shadow. Would they do something more extreme? One night, leaving the parking lot, I sensed being followed, heart racing the whole way, but realized it was just amplified fear from prolonged stress. That night, I dreamed them dragging Rachel away amid chaotic shouts while I chased desperately, calling her name hoarsely. I woke gasping, soaked in sweat, heart pounding wildly. Without thinking, I called her immediately. "Rachel, are you okay? I just woke up. I'm so worried." On the other end, she laughed softly, voice strangely gentle. "You worry too much. I'm fine. I'm here, safe." Just hearing that eased my unease. In that moment, I understood that though the storm might not be fully over, we'd learned to stand firm together, quietly. Just enough trust in staying. Our feelings grew deeper, no longer mere comfort or shared pain. At first, we were two hurt people seeking each other, but time turned it into a clear, responsible choice for both. Rachel moved to Pittsburgh after a few months, renting nearby, working at a small company. We met more. Riverside walks, weekend cooking, sharing deepest secrets. After much deliberation, long nights discussing societal pressure, family, we decided to marry, not rushing but no longer delaying. One evening by the river at sunset, I knelt. "Rachel, I can't promise a perfect life, but I promise to stay, protect you, and never let you face things alone. Marry me?" She cried happily. "Yes. I want to be with you through calm or storm." Simple ring, no flashy diamond, but full of meaning. We planned discreetly, avoiding noise that could revive old rumors. Telling Mom, Eleanor couldn't hide her joy, as if relieved after all I'd endured. She held my hand, looking into my eyes slowly. "Son, I see you truly happy. That's enough." Then hugged Rachel gently. "From today, you're not a guest, you're family." Mom helped with everything, even hand-sewing Rachel a simple yet elegant wedding dress, full of love. In stark contrast, Rachel's family turned away decisively. Harold called, voice cold and hard. "Rachel, if you marry him, I disown you." Joyce sobbed desperately. "You've betrayed the family." Those words cut Rachel deeply. She grieved, crying silently many nights, whispering in my arms, "I've lost my family." I held her tightly, saying softly but firmly, "You still have me, and you have Mom." Yet anxiety rose. Would they sabotage the wedding? Ultimately, we changed venue and kept everything secret, opting for a quiet ceremony, true to how we chose this life together. The wedding was solemn yet simple, without extravagance. Only Mom, a few close mill friends, understanding colleagues, fewer than 20 people. We chose a small church on Pittsburgh's outskirts where Dad once prayed. Rachel radiant in simple white, hair up, holding lilies. I in black suit, heart pounding seeing her enter. Throughout, I held Rachel's hand tightly, a silent vow of protection, trust, and no turning back. We exchanged rings, kissed amid gentle applause. Mom cried happily. Dad in heaven would bless you. After marrying Rachel, we built a new life, not relying on flashiness or external approval. We avoided social media, no photos, living privately. I bought a modest apartment for our small family, 2 bedrooms, spacious kitchen, balcony overlooking a park. Everything simple but safe. White walls, old furniture from Mom's but cozy. Rachel decorated. I like it this way. No need for much, just feeling safe is enough. We cooked together, watched movies evenings, shared work days. I used accumulated experience to open a small workshop, specializing in steel machinery repair, independent from the old mill. I want financial autonomy, I told Rachel. She supported. I'll help. Small shop on outskirts, few employees, but I worked hard dawn to dusk, seeing it as mastering my own life. Initial revenue low but steady, and I felt free, no past burdens. Life flowed peacefully. I lived with Rachel in tranquility I thought I'd never regain. Mornings waking, we kissed. She brewed coffee. Have a good day. I returned home to her smile. I cooked your favorite. Small joys, park walks, weekend mom visits. On Dad's death anniversary, a year later, frigid Pittsburgh day, I, Rachel, and Eleanor drove to the cemetery. We rode silently, cold wind through the window. Standing quietly before William's grave, white lilies placed, I whispered, Dad, I've learned to live without losing myself. Rachel held my hand. Mom wiped tears. Reflecting on everything, funeral, will, betrayal, divorce, new love, I understood money exposes hearts, but only boundaries and courage preserve dignity and happiness. Your dad must be at peace. You've lived as he taught, Rachel said. I realized family should never be where one endures, tolerates, or trades self-respect for acceptance. True family is where you're heard, respected, protected, even at weakest. I once confused duty with blind sacrifice, kinship with control. But after all, I knew true love doesn't diminish but helps you stand taller in your own life. We left the cemetery silently, 3 walking slowly in cold wind, no more words but feeling quiet, peace spread. The past remained, with losses, betrayals, pain, but no longer aching wounds. It became part of my life, a profound lesson reminding me to live kinder, wiser, stronger on paths ahead.